Hi, I'm Michelle.
And I'm Bill.
We are the Bodybuilding team, selling beaded and stainless steel chain jewelry, highlighting and fitness and women's competition pieces. I can even custom just for you. Check us out
at Brent'sBling.com.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of Iron Therapy. You know, I feel like I need some therapy, and luckily for me, I have our RX Muscle staff psychotherapist, Lesley Timbol, here with us today. And what's up, Les?
Oh, it's a pretty good day here in Vegas. What's it like in Florida?
It's a beautiful day. It's about 75 degrees, going up to 80, so I can't complain. Sun's out. All is good in the world, you know, and I think we all need a little therapy this week, so I figured what better than to run another show. Now, you know, if you've been following the news, the Arnold Classic news, that is, Andrew Jacked has thrown his hat into the ring at the Arnold Classic, especially after the announcement of the $300,000 first place prize money that has been offered up by Arnold. A lot of guys have decided that they all of a sudden, they weren't going to compete, and all of a sudden they got the itch to compete again, which is great. But coinciding with Andrew Jack doing the Arnold Classic, he decided that he was going to make a coaching switch from George Farah to our very own technician, Chris Aceto, which I think is a really good move for him. I think Chris is going to, you know, really work wonders with his physique. But the topic I want to talk about is coaches and athletes breaking up. What's the right protocol to do it? Because we always hear about, you know, sometimes the split is very amicable. Sometimes it's brutally not amicable, you know, and it's terrible, the split, which reminds me of William Bonac and our good friend Neil Hill. That was a pretty nasty split. And, you know, we've seen some bad ones, okay? What would you say, you know, from a psychologist standpoint is the right way to terminate a business relationship, which is probably also coincided with some sort of a friendship as well, because it's almost unavoidable when you're helping someone that intimately. What's the right way to do it, Les?
Well, it's like any relationship, Dave. It's the number one thing is communication. So let's say your coach is asking you to follow, let's say, a protocol you're not comfortable with. Well, don't just follow it. Express your concerns. They might have certain points, but ultimately it's your body. Let's say it's certain training exercises. Let's say it's a peak week protocol. Whatever it might be, if you're not happy, or let's say coaches, this is a latest thing where people do their check-ins with their coaches and their coaches can take, you know, days to get back to them. And that's not acceptable either. So, I mean, you have to be able to, when it happens, when something is happening that your coach is doing. So, I mean, the reverse is true too, but we're just talking about from an athlete to a coach perspective. If an athlete is not happy with what a coach is doing as far as, you know, how they're trying to be helped, you have to let the coach know. Because keep in mind, what works for one athlete may not necessarily work for another. So whatever they're suggesting to you, it's not because they're trying to sabotage your progress. If anything, they're trying to help you. If something's not working, you have to let them know so they can modify it.
Right.
Now, let's say you do tell them, and let's say they're like, no, just give it a chance. You know, let's see if this works. Because let's say you're at a plateau. Well, it does take several weeks sometimes to blast through the plateau. So I'm not saying, you know, try to give them some leeway, but then come up with a strategy of saying, okay, if we don't see that change, what did you have in mind as the next step? And if you don't feel comfortable with that, to say, hey, do you mind if we tried this instead? Because this has helped me in the past when I've prepped for competitions. It's dialogue. And
right.
if
that's just getting along with the coach. But let's say that you decide, you know what, I work with this coach, I want to try something different, or I'm not happy with the results I'm getting, I want to work with someone else, or I got bamboozled by some other coach into thinking that he's going to make me Mr. Olympia, and I'm making a bad decision, I'm leaving my coach. Regardless of what the reason that you're leaving is, how do you end the relationship properly? In other words, I think it's the onus of the athlete, assuming the athlete's the one ending the relationship.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's the onus of the athlete to call the coach and just be honest. I mean, I have athletes who call me up and say, Dave, I want to try something different. And I'm like, great, no problem. I'm always here, you know, and a lot of times they come back after, you know, trying something different because they realize that, you know, It wasn't better. It was just different, you know? And so there's nothing that you should really, excuse me, burping. There's nothing you should take personally about this whole thing because it's a business relationship. The problem is people become, you know, Woody Allen once said, friendly but not familiar. Meaning that you got to be friendly with the person that you're working with, but don't get too familiar where you now if you terminate the business relationship, you lose your friendship with that person, and it's tough. And I know because there's an intermingling there, but and a lot of people feel uncomfortable calling their coach up and telling him. Especially, I had a client who told me, "You're going to be my coach forever. As long as I'm competing, you're going to be my coach." I said, "Look, if you want to go someplace else, I'm not going to take it personally." I said, "I will coach you as long as you want me to coach." And I used to always remind him of that because I know people are very fickle. No. When I'm done competing, that's it. You're going to be my only coach. And we got good results together. We won shows and stuff like that. So, and then all of a sudden he switched on me and he never called me and told me. And I had to find out like from someone else who saw his Instagram or something like that. And I never and then somehow in his head, he rationalized that, he got hurt or something like that. I didn't call him or something like that and ask him how he was doing. Who knows what cockamamie story he came up with. But really the problem was he didn't pick the phone up and say, "Hey, Dave, you know what? I'm going to try something different." And that would have been fine. That's the right way to do it. Why, number one, how do you get people to get past that fear of like of confrontation? And number two, what is the right way to do it? Am I on track with what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%, David. It's, for a coach, if they're truly professional, they might feel a little disappointed you're leaving, but if they want what's best for you. And a lot of us who, especially if you've been in the industry, sometimes it's nice to have that variety, even if you come back to that coach later on. Right. It's like a little kickstart for it to just try something different, whether it's a different kind of nutrition plan, a training program, or whatever. It's like going to a different gym. You can have your favorite gym, but sometimes it's nice to go to another gym every once in a while. That's okay. But
some people have to find out because sometimes people go to the right person right from the beginning, and then they think, well, maybe this feels almost too good, but maybe I should be with someone else. And so what they do is they go and they leave that person, and they realize, holy mackerel, what a bad mistake this was. I give credit to someone like Phil Heath, who kind of stuck with Hani his whole career. He never changed coaches. Very rarely do you have some kind of a relationship like that. Invariably, usually the person will switch at some point, especially if once they stop doing well, they'll say, "Ooh, someone else will promise them the world," and they'll go to that person.
Right. I mean, they are rare. I mean, you have Flex and Neil Hill. I mean, they were a dynamite team as well. So I mean, there can be that. But to answer your question, if an athlete wants to, let's say they finish their competition and they want to do another show and they're thinking about trying a different coach, definitely. I mean, if you can do it in person, that's ideal. But I appreciate, not everyone's in the same city, let alone country. Right. So, pick up the phone, or if you can do a video or a video conversation, but pick up the phone at the very least and say, "Hey, I just want to chat. Really appreciate all what you've done for me. Right. I was thinking about taking a different route. Who knows if I'm going to come back, but I wish you well." And it's, you don't say like, you didn't get me in shape. This is your fault. I didn't place properly. Come on. Yeah. You have to take some accountability, and it's also a learning experience. But coach, no.
Some people's systems just don't work well. Like, I don't know what George was having, Andrew do, but historically George doesn't do a lot of cardio with his guys, and he gives them a lot of carbs. So probably Andrew's body just didn't respond to that system well. And so maybe he needed something different, to try. And who knows? Maybe he'll look better with Chris. Maybe he'll look worse. I doubt he'll look worse because I know Chris, he's a lunatic when it comes to, working with people. But, it wasn't, he was winning shows, but he wasn't winning them looking his best. So I guess he's new to the sport. So he's still trying to find the right fit. It always amazed me when you see a guy who finds someone who works really well with them and then switches to someone else, because, that you don't try to fix something that is not broke, and I think that's a mistake a lot of times that people make. They think, oh, well, I'm going to find something even better. But, if you're doing well and you're winning shows, like when I was helping Tony Freeman, for years, I mean, we were winning show after show after show, even shows that he was a little off on, we would tweak it. And I just knew his body, and it just worked well. And so we always stayed together. Tony never went anyplace else. So at the end, he was doing his own diet a little bit for the last couple shows he did. But the bottom line is, whether you make a bad decision or not, you got to tell the coach, okay, what's going on. Now, if they don't want to accept that, or if they're not like willing to, like, good example is my friend Dominic Patasio, who was working with Nick Walker all off season this year. And people already forgot that, but yeah, he worked with him for a good 10 months. And, Nick didn't really communicate well with him when they were kind of ending it, because I think Dom called him up and said, hey, I heard online that, that you're not going to be working with me anymore. And you're going back to, Matt Jensen. And he's like, no, that's not true. And he should have just been honest. I think he was, but that could be a little bit of immaturity on his part. I think he felt bad, maybe guilty, but honesty is the best policy. I'll tell you something, because personally, I don't take anything personally, because if I'm coaching you, I want to help you as long as you want me to help you. And if you don't want me to help you anymore, I might be upset if we put in a lot of work together, but it's ultimately your decision. You're paying me. It's your life, and I always tell my guys, even if you leave, I'm always here to answer questions. I'm not going to be like, okay, you broke up with me like some jealous ex-girlfriend now. That's not going to happen. I'm still here to answer questions. I'll still interview you if you win the big show and everything like that. So you got to.
The thing is, here's the thing, Dave. Not all coaches have that kind of personality. Some will take it personally. Now, whether they actually do or not, that's what the athlete doesn't know. Until they're in that situation, they don't really know how the coach is going to respond, and they don't want to hurt the coach, because obviously they had some type of rapport. So and that's whether it's a coach or someone else. We don't want to hurt another person's feelings, and that's why sometimes we hold stuff in.
Right.
And in the case of not telling a coach, it's that holding it in because I don't want to hurt, in this case, my coach.
Right. Or you don't want to, bottle it up so long that you wind up exploding. Because I think that's what happened with Bonac and Neil Hill. I think William was holding this in so long that he should have been voicing, how he felt inside to Neil the whole time. And they might have, number one, been able to settle it and actually made it work. Or, at least they could have disbanded the relationship behind closed doors, not on Instagram, you know what I mean? Which is what it turned out to be, He said this, he came on here and said that, and then they went back and forth. So once again, it's like, just be mature about it. If something's bothering you, speak to your coach about it, and what, because I've had people come to me, or say, I was upset that you didn't get back to me or something like that. I'm like, and if anyone knows me, I'm probably the quickest person to get back to a client. Like, I answer text immediately. There's not an email that does not get answered before I go to bed at night, because, and it's usually within like an hour or two or quicker, because I keep up on this stuff all day long. So if you don't get an email response back to me to an update you send me the next by within the same day, then I didn't get it. You can guarantee that, or somehow it got lost. So I always tell my clients, resend it or text me just to make sure, because I don't miss updates. That's just not me, because I know how important those updates are to the athlete, because they want to know what they got to eat the next day and how much cardio they have to do, what my opinion is, and what's going on for the weekend, or whatever the next update is. So, that's important that you have communication. Don't just assume, hey, this guy blew me off. He doesn't want to coach me anymore. He hasn't responded. Maybe he never got your update email. And I always tell my clients, I'm not running after anyone for their homework. So, because I've had, you have people that start cheating on the diet and then they don't send you an update because they feel guilty. And then they might come back in 2 weeks and start saying, oh, I had a bad 2 weeks. I'm back. And then they'll send it to me. They'll start sending me updates again. But I'm not going to chase them down and say, oh, I haven't got an update in a week for you. What's going on here? That's not my job. Your job as I'm the teacher, you're the student. The student should turn in the homework assignment. If he doesn't, he's not going to learn that lesson, right?
It's the whole accountability. And you brought up another piece about, why, people lie to their coaches. Is the coach going to be happy that you cheated? No. They wouldn't be doing their job if they didn't investigate. Hey, what happened?
Yeah.
Or some,
send me filtered pictures. And until I did a big rant on it, now no one sends me filtered pictures anymore because I don't know, maybe people didn't even realize there was anything wrong with that. It was just they thought, well, these are the pictures I'm posting on Instagram, so I'll just forward them to Dave. But if you send your coach a filtered picture and he's not getting a real good view of what you really look like, he might make the wrong decisions on how much cardio, what kind of food you're going to eat for the week, because he thinks that you look better than you really do. People are like, yeah, but the lighting was so bad. I said, I want to see those. Those are the pictures I want to see. The ones that you don't want to show anyone else. I want to see those pictures because those are the real pictures, you know?
Well, it's that whole, we want to be liked. You know, it's, you know, we want to make, let's say, whether it's, you know, approval. I don't know if that's the right word, from the coach to saying, am I on the right track? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? We need that validation. How do I look based on this? We may fine tune. I don't want to disappoint my coach, let's say, when I compete, because I'm representing just not myself, but my coach. There's a whole bunch of expectations and pressures, whether they're internal or external. So internal meaning what we tell ourselves. Yeah. External could be from, let's say, it could be potentially if you're working with, let's say, a sponsorship company about part of your, and I don't know if they still do this, they may not, but let's say you have a contract saying you have to keep at certain shows that you have to place within a certain, let's say, first call outs or whatever. And I don't know if that's still a thing, but, you know, there could be external pressures in that respect. Yeah.
Well, you know what, though, I like I said, I would, if a client of mine fails for their, let's say that, you know, they're updating me every 3 days. Okay. And they have a bad 3 days. I want to know about it because I'm not the judge who's judging them on the stage. I'm the guy who's helping them get ready to be judged by the judge on stage. So if they have a bad week, I need to know they had a bad week so that we can say, okay, you know what, this is not typical. This was not due to the fact that you weren't doing enough cardio or I had you eating too much food.
Right.
It was a matter of the fact that you just cheated on your diet or you missed a couple workouts. And now I know, and we're not going to change anything. Let's get back on schedule and then we'll check it in 3 days again. And so, yeah, there's got to always be communication back and forth between, you know, coach and athlete. And if you do that while you're both working with the person and or trying to end a relationship with the person because you want to do something, try something else, or maybe you're just quitting bodybuilding or whatever the case may be, communication is very important. And I think that a lot of people are afraid to communicate because they might be judged or they might not like the answer they get from their coach. Because some coaches, might try to tell the person off or try to convince them not to leave and guilt them into it. And so they'd rather not have to, confront the person at all. So sometimes they don't call at all. They just stop communicating with the coach, which is the worst thing.
It's avoidance, right?
Well, the problem is it ends the relationship and it sullies any future relationships. Likewise, some people will just shoot a quick text. Oh, by the way, I'm not re-signing with you. Don't do that. That's like a complete dismissal. At least say, hey, you know what? I'm going to try something new. I want to try this new coach. I don't want to burn my bridges with you. I really enjoyed the relationship we had. But I might come back. I might not. I don't know. I'm going to see how I do. And at least you're being honest. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Remember, it's a business relationship. So you're hiring me to be your massage therapist. If you don't want me to be your massage therapist, it's not like you're ending your friendship with me. It's just I'm not going to massage you anymore. That's all. It's the same thing.
And you know what, Dave? If you have a coach that does take it personally and goes off for whatever reason, again, that's not a reflection of you. That's more a reflection of them, because they're not looking at the job of why you're doing this. Yes, you might have a good friendship or a good connection, because it does evolve into more than just a professional relationship at times, especially the longer you're with a coach. But again, even with, let's say, a friend, when you're having an argument with a friend or they become toxic for whatever reason, you might need a break from them.
Sure. You know what happens also too, Les? Whenever you get a new coach, the new coach is a ton of attention you get from them right off the bat, because they're trying to learn how your body works and what's going on. And so there's a lot more communication. And then once you get into a routine of a contest diet or an off season, there's less communication going on now, because now you know the person's body. You're making tweaks every update. You're sending the tweaks to them. They're making the changes. I always say it's the onus of responsibility of the athlete that if they need more attention or they need questions answered, to contact the coach, because the coach might be helping 20 other people and they don't know which athlete requires, more or less attention. They only know if the athlete tells them that. So there has to be a lot of communication there. Sometimes that's really the only problem I've ever had, I think, with people in the past, where people maybe thought they were not getting enough attention. And then I pointed out to them, was there ever a time I didn't get back to you in a very quick manner, get on the phone with you if you needed to? No, you always answered everything. I said, well, if you needed more, then you got to tell me, because I don't know. The coach only knows what he's being told. I don't know
Right.
how you're feeling behind the scenes, if you're sad, or you had a loss in your family, or you cheated on your diet 4 days in a row because you were depressed. You got to tell the coach that they are not mind readers, and a lot of times you're not, especially if the coach is a well-established coach, that you're not their only client. So
Right.
and I always tell people, I'll give you as much attention or as little as you need or want. It depends on what you need and want. And so a lot of times, I might be, sending emails that have a couple of sentences in them for updates. And then we get down to the last 10 days and I'm on the phone with them. I'm getting updates every single day, sometimes twice a day, because now I'm trying to peak them and I need to have much more of a relationship, of communication with them. So it depends. That's why I'm saying, as an athlete, don't assume the coach is going to take this parental stance and be your parent, where they're going to be asking you the questions, or they're going to be coming to you and say, hey, did you eat your dinner? Did you finish your breakfast? It's not going to happen.
They're not going to hold your hand. They shouldn't.
It's too busy. Unless you're paying them $20,000, to come live with you, it's not going to happen,
I love that Andrew has both Chris's in his corner, though, now. I think that's going to be a great combination. So it's going to be really exciting to see the result of that.
Chris Psycho Lewis is a great trainer. He learned a lot from studying under Charles. He's seen all the athletes. He's been back there from Flex Wheeler times, Chris Cormier times. And so he's been doing this a really long time. He had great, obviously, results with Sean Roden. And I think that's like they're trying to rekindle that same energy that Chris Aceto and Psycho had with the Sean Roden, whereas Psycho trained him in the gym, Chris did his diet, and it was just that team effort where they just got a great result. And obviously Sean won the Olympia that way. So if Andrew made the move. He's living out there with Psycho. He's training every day with him. Ceto's doing his diet. We got the Arnold, in 5 weeks or something like that from now.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But the key take-home message here is communication, and you have to have it, or it's not going to work.
And to address the fear about the coach either losing it or, let's say, never talking to you again, if that's stopping you from your goals, then he was never a really good friend to begin with.
No. And if there's ever any threats, because sometimes I see with male coaches and female clients, there's almost I don't know if there's actual threats being put out there, or there's the fear of retribution. You're not going to place well if you don't if I'm not coaching you, or you leave me, type of thing. I've seen it. It's not out there a lot, but there are some lunatics out there that coach people and they do stuff like that. Those people get as far away from as possible, and report them. Tell your local district chairman about these people, because you know what, that gives coaching a bad name, and no one should be beholden to anyone or being threatened or blackmailed or anything like that. That's just not acceptable, and they need to be exposed if someone's doing that legitimately to you. So
absolutely,
I want to just throw that out there, because we do see some pretty effed up, coaching. What happens is they cross the line. They're asking for naked pictures. We've seen it all. We know, and we know who these people are. So you got to be.
And if that's happening to anyone watching, contact myself or Dave.
Yeah.
We can give you the support and guidance as far as the next steps you can take.
There's a lot of predators out there, and so you got to be careful. But we're trying to give you advice based on normal coach client, relationships, and how to, number one, deal with them while you're in the relationship. And then if you need to terminate that relationship or you want to move someplace else, how to do it properly. Communication is key. And that's the message we want to drive home today. Guys, if you're enjoying these shows and you want to give us some suggestions for future topics, put them in the comments below. Lesley will read those comments. I will not, but she'll get back to me with some great shows. If you guys want to see any specific guests on this show, also, I'm open for suggestions. Or if anyone watching the show wants to come on because they have a specific topic that they'd like to discuss that, hopefully Lesley can help them with, I'd love to get you guys on as well. For now, though, we are out of time. I'm Dave Palumbo with Lesley Timbol for another installment of Iron Therapy.